Hello, everyone. Welcome to another wonderful episode of the Pixelated Echoes. I'm your host, 3-Bit, and we're going to have a very pixelated evening tonight here with my co-host, Fuzzy and Mav. But if you're listening, be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell to be notified on when we go live. And we're going to get straight into it of what we've been playing and or watching. I've been just playing Indiana Jones, and It Takes Two. I've been like replaying that with the wifey. Really good. It's even better than what I remembered. There's like certain levels in It Takes Two where I'm just like it's super well made. Looking forward to seeing what you guys been up to. We just met yesterday, so this is like a part two of
Yeah.
like FSP part two essentially. So I did mix it up a little bit on some of these topics, but we'll see how we are all doing. So let me get straight into the intros. So we got the Maviwine, the hit singer, the pony riding diss track artist, the fun of all the speculations. This man has several shows, which I'm a part of. FSP, he has PM in the PM with Mav and Pong. And of course, where it all began for me and him, Xbox Ultimate Podcast. The Mav. How you doing today? What have you been
Not
playing?
bad.
Hey.
Not bad, man. I've been mainly Indiana Jones, kind of hopping around game to game to game a little bit. Kind of got back into Balatro a little bit as well. But yeah, there's a lot to play right now, so it's but we've also been doing a bunch of different things and getting stuff done. It's the holiday season, so it's a little bit busy. So not as much time as other times of the year, but it's about to be probably more time because kind of work gets real slow around this time of year. But yeah, man, I'm just enjoying gaming. I'm looking at the sky falling on Twitter every day and enjoying that show as well. But yeah, for me, everything's great right now. Like Indiana Jones is awesome. Special game. I played a little bit like NBA here and there, still stuff like that too. But yeah, the soccer too as well. I mean, there's just so much, dude. It's like the only problem I have is I want to play like 50 different games right now,
Yeah, same.
and like I genuinely like, oh, I want to play this. I want to play this. I want to play this, and sometimes that creates like a battle in my mind about like what am I going to enjoy the most right now, and then I start playing something like I want to switch to the other thing. I want to switch to the other thing. That's just kind of the way I am. But there's just so much great stuff, and coming off the heels of the Game Awards, we have more crazy good games coming out at the beginning of the year next year. It's just nuts, man. But this is my
Yeah,
favorite time of the year, so it's my favorite time of the year for gaming too.
yeah, same. I wish I had a Steam Deck as I visit like family and stuff.
Yeah,
Just like a portable thing, but I do have a Fire Stick.
you
So,
should get a Rock Ally,
oh yeah,
something like
or
that.
a ROG, yeah, or a ROG
Yeah,
Ally.
because if do you have a big Steam library?
Not as much, no.
Yeah,
But
so but if you
can you
do
like
like you
Xbox games?
well you the thing with Steam Deck is you can do that stuff, but it's not as like seamless to put like Game Pass and unless they changed it since I had mine.
Hmm.
But yeah, you have to kind of like go into some different settings and do some different kind of crazy stuff to get access to those games. Once you do, it works
Mhm.
great. But if you do like a ROG Ally or something, you it's just like a PC, so you can install your Game Pass PC games natively that way, right? You can
Yeah.
access anything you can on a PC, including
Mm.
Steam.
Or maybe I should wait for Sarah Bond to release their Xbox handheld. It's
Be a
coming.
few years,
Few years, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be 2027.
I think so too.
It
Yeah.
just I think it would be nice if it was earlier, but based on Phil's comments about it, it seemed like they haven't even chosen, I don't think, which device to go forward with because they're
Yeah.
doing all these prototypes, and when they make their final decision, they're gonna roll with that and probably fine tune it over the next year or two, wait for some, enhancements on some of the um, graphics cards for mobile devices and stuff like that, and then pump it out by 2027, something like
Yeah, I'm sure right now the devices look very ugly and
that. I
whatnot.
would be curious to see the prototypes to see like
Yeah.
how like final form they look, or if they like deconstructed some other things to kind of make their own hybrid, or how they do those.
Yeah. As long as it doesn't look like a PS5. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
And I wonder
I
which
hate the way that looks.
teams are doing it. Like, is it Jason Ronald and the like Surface team working together to build something like that?
I
Because the Surface team was put under Phil's umbrella, right?
Mhm.
So I wonder which teams. Like, it'd be separate from the console team, but Jason Ronald's usually on the console side. So is he in charge of building two different, or maybe three different devices right now?
Hmm.
For getting ready for the next generation.
Yeah, something to ponder on. Maybe they'll make
Yeah,
that one of the
they're
topics.
busy.
We'll see. We'll see. So let's bring it to my co-host, the racing legend, the real life Felix a cat, the drifting sensation, the fuzziest of all the Belvederes. How you doing today, good sir? And what have you been playing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Glad to be here with you guys. Been playing a little bit of everything, but a recent update kind of broke a favorite game of mine now. Update 2 with Indiana Jones. I guess some people out there, I don't know if it was on PC or console, they were having an issue where they were getting the camera was stuck. They couldn't, operate any other items, and I think there was a bug where you could lose your lighter because you threw it or something silly. I haven't thrown my lighter, but now it's like I can't get the lighter half the time to work in the cave. Um, Especially if I wound up, bringing a weapon into the cave at the beginning, and then it's like, oh yeah, let me go get the lighter. Oh, it doesn't light. Well, let me go get the camera because I'm supposed to take a picture of this mural. Oh, the camera doesn't work now.
Mm,
Um, it's whatever they fixed, unfixed my game basically. So I gotta put some videos together to submit those as a bug report because whatever they did, I wish there was a way to go back to the previous version because it was working perfectly fine for me prior. But
yeah.
other than that, still playing a little bit of Undisputed. They're supposed to be doing some more content updates. They had a recent update where they added more arenas. They have some more DLC boxers. I'm not buying Jake Paul or Logan Paul or whatever one they had
Oh, yeah.
there. I'm still waiting for them to get something like Tyson, like hopefully like a version of him in his prime kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they get some other real world boxers and stuff like Mayweather or something like that. But still playing Forza Horizon 5. Still collecting cars. I think the game is about to reach 900 cars in game, as far as unique cars, and I have like 820 of them. So I still got
Crazy.
a lot of them to collect, but there's all the DLC ones, which I'm gonna wait until they do like a year end discount on all the DLCs as far as the additional cars and stuff. But other than that, for all those that are into Forza Horizon 4, hope you downloaded it or purchased it already because it's now delisted. But as fun as that one was, I still, me personally, I like Forza Horizon 5 a bit better. The weather system in 4 was a much better like layout because you had actual snow everywhere. But overall, gameplay wise, Forza Horizon 5 is still, at least in my opinion, the premier or the top one. Although there were aspects of 3 that were pretty cool as well, with it being Australia and stuff like that. But man, trying to stay off of social media because I don't want people telling me why I should be mad about Xbox doing what they've been doing for a while now.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I rather just play games, especially when when patches don't break them. But outside of that, uh, social media is just it's in a weird state. I
Yep.
understand some people's anger, but I'm pretty sure we'll get into it because I'm unchanged or unfazed.
Yeah, I feel it. I've been on Blue Sky, and I haven't seen. It's weird not to getting arguments with people. I'm like, what is going on? Yeah, it's very nice so far on Blue Sky. So that actually leads to the first topic, which is actually about Satya Nadella. All the things that Fuzzy's probably talking about, what's going on um, in the Xbox sphere of things. So basically, I'm going to read an article from Paul Tassi. We love Paul Tassi. That's an exaggeration. As PlayStation players wait to play Xbox exclusive Indiana Jones 6 months or so from now, this is quoting from him. We are reminded of the strange situation the console brand finds itself in, where it is really not even a console brand at all anymore, at least not according to Microsoft. Microsoft has rolled out kind of like a this is an Xbox campaign he follows, attempting to show all the different places you can play Xbox games that are not on literal Xboxes. This includes smart TVs, non-gaming laptops, phones, tablets, or third-party gaming devices. All of that, of course, is using cloud streaming to play, unlike the consoles or PCs that download the actual games. So this is kind of where he gets into what he has a problem with. This recently came up in an interview with Microsoft's CEO, Satya Nadella, who doubled down on the idea. He's quoting Satya, we are redefining what it means to be an Xbox fan. It is about being able to enjoy Xbox on all your devices, end quote. A refrain in his post is that Xbox may be too early again, which I would say tracks. This idea Microsoft has that a huge number of people are interested in streaming AAA Xbox games to a bunch of random electronics does not have much basis in reality at the present moment. This is what he says. Even Microsoft itself said in court that cloud gaming was a tiny fraction of the market right now. Yes, it may be true that in the future we may do away with console hardware entirely, but the death of consoles has been greatly exaggerated for generations now. And if Xbox leaning this hard on the cloud and subscriptions is 20 years too early, what's the point of doing this? So end quote. He kind of follows that up a little bit and talks about the Xbox One and a couple other things. So to me personally, I don't think Xbox saying this is an Xbox for multiple devices is confusing, like the title of his article. I think the media is essentially slowly figuring it out, what Xbox has been saying for a bit now. I do think a lot of the industry is confused due to them relying on an older model of purely just console sales, which aren't enough for stability. Like where these companies make money is software. Now, I love consoles. I've put over 200 plus hours this year in consoles, and only like 4 hours on PC when I was looking at my statistics. I was like, oh, dang, barely spent time on PC. But just kind of based on Microsoft's model, they are growing from the root of their success, not kind of like chopping the tree down. Like they look at consoles and they're kind of like, cool, how do we grow from that? And Satya, Phil, and Sarah, they have all talked about, if there's anything to be consistent on, they've all talked about how important the consoles are and growing from that. It's these other journalists kind of telling you that Xbox doesn't care about consoles. It's other fanboys kind of just saying like Xbox, they're getting out of the console market. It sucks, you know. Xbox has never really said that. They've said the opposite actually on multiple occasions, how they want to grow from the consoles, but still having consoles as an important metric. Because yeah, it's interesting, right? Where people kind of dictate like there's only one metric to compete as a metric for success. And I mean, I get that mentality just because has been the main thing for a while now. A lot of people throughout these generations, we've seen my game versus your game, let's compete that way over and over. My console sales versus your console sales, as that's the metric that's been there for years. But I mean, I honestly think that's changing. Um, and I remember it was weird for Xbox to put games on PC. Now that's the norm, as well as like PlayStation. You had fans, not even a few years ago, saying that Sony would never put their games on PC. And now that goalpost is shifting and shifting and getting smaller and smaller as those day and dates get smaller and smaller. You can look at a bunch of Sony podcasts if you want. Look a few years ago and then see what they were saying about, PC. So what I agree with in this article is it kind of hits on Xbox being too early on some of their strategies. I've always kind of agree with that. Xbox definitely has some of the smartest analysts in the industry with what they kind of establish. Remember, they did the achievement system. They were the first to do the achievement system, which Sony later adopted as trophies. They tried to lower the need for physical discs with the ability to trade games with friends with the Xbox One, having always online, which was looked down upon in the time it launched. Now it's kind of normalized in a lot of cases. So what else I kind of agree with, and then I'll get you guys' thoughts. Sarah admitted in the FTC that cloud was a very small percentage of the market, which is why it was just dumb politics, in my opinion, that the FTC and the CMA wanted to just jump in there saying how much of a harm it would be. It was just all politics. But, I digress. There are stipulations to Xbox kind of doing it in this specific time frame. However, I don't think what they're doing doesn't make sense, that it's confusing. It definitely kills the console war mentality of my games versus your games. And I always say it's going to not be anymore. I don't think it's not going to be about games versus games, but like ecosystem versus ecosystem in the far future. As Sony kind of ventures into the PC space, Xbox into the multi-platform space, they need to make their ecosystem as appealing as possible, and cloud is an advantage in that space, in which Sony's they're very behind playing catch up with their live service games. That's why they want to do a bunch of live service games. A lot of them got canceled. And also like their offerings, which they're not really comparable with what Game Pass offers. What Sony does have right now is the brand recognition and the default mentality for a lot of people. Like, that is the place to go to play your games, as the ecosystem a lot of people are comfortable with. So I have a lot of thoughts on that article. Like, I agree with certain things that he's saying, like, but to me, it's like time period. Like, Xbox has the right strategies for a lot of things. I just think sometimes it's not like people aren't always ready for it, so they reject it until someone else does it. And when someone else does it, then it becomes normalized. This has happened several times. But nothing Satya is saying is new. I get really confused with journalists, like modern day journalists, still not understanding. Like, how many times does Phil have to say, case by case, that they are trying to expand to other consoles, they're putting things on other platforms? Like, how many times do they have to say that for people to stop being surprised? I stopped being surprised a while ago. Like, I'm like, yep, expect, hey, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Halo goes into other platform. Like, I'm done with the surprise factor. Like, I've been out of that a while now. Now it's just about them kind of adopting their strategy to put it on other devices, how they're going to do it. Essentially, it's not about when or if they will ever do it. It's more so about, like, what is their strategy for doing it. At this point, when you get like Outer Worlds 2, you have Call of Duty, obviously, going on different devices. They have several games. So I'll go to you first, Mav. Just you kind of hearing Paul Tassie's statements. Some I agree with, a lot. I don't. I think it's just a lot of these journalists are outdated with their some of their mindsets of like where the industry is headed. But don't let me influence you. What are your overall thoughts on
Oh,
Paul Tassie's article? If you've
I
read it.
mean, if I wasn't I mean, honestly, if I wasn't doing this show, I was probably going to do a Mavcast tonight.
Yeah.
Because of just all of this going around again. Now this all first off came from a shareholder thing that happened last week. Okay. Nobody noticed, nobody cared, nothing. Nobody even talked about it because everybody's focused on other things. It was no news until Steven Totillo had in his pay for blog thing, his article, which then preceded a cascade of articles from numerous other journalists because there's nothing else to talk about right now, right? Headlines all saying things like Xbox and the confusing direction, or Xbox going to multiple devices. Xbox says that it is something different now to be an Xbox fan or whatever. I made a tweet just saying, hey, Satya Nadella pretty much confirmed again that they're working on consoles because that was part of his comments as well, which nobody even cared about or focused on, which is the main concern that everybody kept having, is that Xbox isn't going to be making future consoles or hardware. Right? So in the same paragraph of conversation, Satya Nadella talks about console innovation from Microsoft and Xbox going forward as well. So I'm like, well, that's the bigger thing. We already all know they're doing Xbox Anywhere, Xbox Everywhere. They've been doing that. Xbox hasn't been just a console since they started putting games day and date on PC, which happened last generation. It's since then. Then they implemented cloud gaming. These are features that we already have. What is different is their messaging. What's different is their brand and their messaging and their marketing, which is a lot about their commercials, and they're reaching out to really promote the mobile devices as game ownership, and the cloud is rolling out. They're trying to get people to understand that, hey, if you own Xbox games, you can play them on your phone, you can play them on your PC, you can play them on a tablet, you can play them on anything. Right, pretty much. And that's what they're rolling out, and that's what they're going to keep adding. Just the other day, they had another update for the for the cloud ownership with the games you own, you can play, that rolled out to people that aren't in the insider tier. Right? So if you have a PC, tablet, whatever, and you go to like the Edge browser and you go to xbox.com/play, you'll see a selection of games there that you can purchase or that you already own that are now playable via the cloud. Also, on the back end of this, they also just did a huge update to the Xbox PC app that loaded in a ton more games that, if you already bought on Xbox, the console, they're also now available to download natively on PC that weren't there before as well. These are additive features and things that are expanding upon the same things that they've already been doing. So when they say these things about, when Satya Nadella says the thing about which he was speaking in reference to the advertisement, which they just had, like, this is an Xbox, because it's their big marketing campaign right now. He is saying it changes what it means to be an Xbox fan because it includes more people than just console users. Xbox is not just a console. This is something that podcasters, Xbox content creators, people in the community have been saying as an argument for Xbox for years. Every time that people bring up console sales and all these other kind of things, like, hey, Xbox is also on PC, Xbox is this, Xbox is on that, Xbox is that. But now that Xbox says it, and is pushing that message even more than the podcasters and everybody in the community who was saying the same thing, now it's a problem, because we can't have Xbox saying this, because it means that the console's less important. It means the console is meaningless. But then Satya Nadella continues in this statement where he says, so our strategy with Activision content now is in full force. We feel fantastic about the progress we've made. And more importantly, I think long term, as a company, we can bring the best of AI innovation, cloud innovation, console innovation, PC innovation to build the best games that can be enjoyed by gamers everywhere. So I ask everybody this that is freaking out. What are you playing your games on now? Are you playing on your console? Are you playing on your Xbox? Did you just get to play Indiana Jones on your Xbox? Did you just get to play Stalker 2 on your Xbox? Did you just get to play Call of Duty Black Ops 6 on your Xbox? Did you have a good time? Are you enjoying yourself? If that is the case, nothing changes with all the releases coming in 2025 and beyond. Except more additive features to where you can access your games in more places. Yes, they're also releasing games and more games on PlayStation as well. Okay, I get it. You don't like that. It affects your pride. You no longer feel as special because somebody else has access to the thing that you felt made your box feel special. If that's the only reason you played on Xbox was because of exclusives, why are you going to go to PlayStation now? When you're the same games that you've always been playing and talking about and loving are now coming to you with more features at a better price. You, again, I say this time and time again, you're all of a sudden going to say, I'm going to go ahead and go somewhere else that I've crapped on for years because I say I don't like their games, but now I'm going to go over there and pay more for the same games that I said I loved, that I said I were made this other thing special. It doesn't make any sense. There's no logic in a lot of people's thinkings with this, except for pride and feeling special about the console. As far as Paul Tassie's article specifically, like, get with the program, man. It hasn't been about just console for a long time. How are you just now discovering this? Ever since they put games day and date on PC, it hasn't just been about the console. Why do you think they bought Activision Blizzard? They bought Activision Blizzard King. There is way more to all of this than these people that are just Xbox as a console. Somebody made a comment on one of my tweets earlier and was like, Xbox, the console, is in trouble. Xbox isn't just a console. It's a brand. It is a brand. It is a company that has multiple branches, right? Somebody else made a comment, but yeah, I think, it sucks that PlayStation's still buying third-party and second-party games to be exclusive for PlayStation, and taking them away from Xbox. What else is PlayStation going to do? They have to compete to sell their boxes because that's still primarily what they are. Don't you think PlayStation would rather be able to put games on everywhere for everybody to be able to access and expand beyond the same 60, 80 million that they sell every generation? They already said they're doing that. That's why they're doing PC as well. That's why they're working on a mobile app. That's why they're working on a PC storefront. They're doing all of these same things. So it's funny that when it comes to Xbox, it's always about, wow, they're not going to survive, or they're so much in trouble, but they're so much bigger than they've ever been. The revenue is increasing every single quarter. They're reaching more gamers. Heck, the top 3 of the top 15 games played every week on PlayStation or Xbox games. Every week. They're owned by Microsoft. In fact, there's been several weeks where those are the 3 or 4 top 15 games are on PlayStation or Microsoft Xbox games being played, and not one PlayStation first party. Yeah. Ask yourself, who would you rather be? Would you rather be set up for the future and all these people can access the games from everywhere? You'd be able to buy a game from any device, be able to access it from any device? Or would you rather sell to the same market every generation? Not only that, but the amount of developers and the publishers that they've acquired to provide the content that's going to feed this growth and attract these customers is beneficial to us as console gamers. But they aren't just interested in selling just to console gamers anymore. if they are gonna include console, they're going to continue to branch out and also include other consoles now, and it'll happen with Switch 2 also. When the Switch 2 comes out, you're going to see Xbox games go over there also.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that you can't enjoy games on your Xbox? No. In fact, they're also making new ones. It's just strange how this whole mentality, every single time they mention Xbox on many devices or all devices and all these other kind of things, brings this conversation back to what it was in January of this year. It's the shitstorm all over again. And it's just baffling to see how it's like the same thing is said by different exec. Let's repeat this meltdown of the Xbox brand is dead. When in fact, it's actually growing and bigger than ever. It's just not just about you anymore. It's not just about the console gamer anymore. It hasn't been for a long time, and it's continuing to evolve even far past that. As long as we get hardware, as long as we get good hardware, and as long as they keep evolving these features that benefit me as a consumer, my experience is just getting better. So I actually am like, okay, keep doing this, because if you're doing this, I'm getting all these extra features. Heck yeah. Like, well, I'm not complaining. I still get to play the same games. They're all hitting Game Pass day and date. What do I have to complain about? What do I have to worry about? What do I have to be upset about? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let them.
No, I was just listening. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. A lot of it is tied to pride for sure, and a lot of it is tied to the current way of thinking, in my opinion, of like what is actually important. Like, because when you're looking at console metrics versus mobile and PC, the console space is the smallest market. So if you're trying to expand your games into multiple markets, and you're just like, well, I'm only on Xbox, it's not going to be on PC, it's not going to be on anything, you're kind of limiting your market in a lot of ways. Like, and it's people will want to play where they want to play, and sometimes, like, I think people think like exclusives move this huge needle, but it actually doesn't. Like, you had the ability, let's say you got Game Pass pretty cheap, and you are playing Call of Duty and stuff like that. A lot of people, even if they had Game Pass, decided to buy Call of Duty on Sony, even if they have both devices, because that is their preference. That's an ecosystem that they like. And I think Xbox is recognizing that, being like, there's people are locked into what they want to do, where they want to play. And because when you start to actually put statistics on certain games, like let's say Last of Us, for example, where people are like, yeah, I go to Sony for Last of Us, and you look at what is in the top 10 games of what is actually played, Last of Us, I guarantee you, is not on there. It's always the same multi-platform game. So when you're actually looking at the exclusives that you are going to this platform for, it's most of the time it's not a exclusive game. It is a FIFA, it is a Madden, it is all that different stuff. So that's when you get into what actually matters at the end of the day. Like is if it's exclusives for you, cool, but that is not the metric that is actually reality of what people are gravitating towards their platform. So that's what I get into, where it becomes more about pride, where you're like, my console has these games, and it's not on anywhere else, right? Which I get that mentality, because I'm an Xbox fan. I understand it, because that has been the base for so many years. Where, I mean, there's a whole documentary you guys can watch called Console Wars, where it explains how this has been a thing where Nintendo and Sega used to battle it out back in the day, and they were a lot harsher. If you look at some of the ads that Nintendo used to make against Sega and stuff like that. So it's not like it doesn't exist. I think the industry is just changing to a point of what is actually important, and surviving in the industry where costs are going up. How do we sustain in this market where as the costs go up, being available in more places always helps. And we saw that where a lot of people before Call of Duty came out was saying like this game is not going to be successful because everyone's just going to get it in Game Pass. What ended up happening? It was way more successful than a lot of people gave it credit for. It was one of the most successful Call of Duties, and it was still in Game Pass. So that just proves to you like people are going to go to the platform that they prefer regardless. So you can say like oh they're lessening the importance of Xbox by putting it on other devices. And I kind of want to because this I was thinking a lot when Matt was saying, and then Froggy to Froggy's point, because a lot of people have been bringing this up of like
the library
messaging.
conversation.
Yeah, so let me
Also,
actually
yeah.
bring up Froggy's comment because that is actually very relevant to this conversation. He says the problem is that if you keep telling people they don't need an Xbox, people will stop buying the Xbox. That can then snowball into less investment in the home console. That's not good. That can end up stranding a large group of users and make them feel like they are an afterthought to Xbox. People who invest into their hardware ecosystem don't like unclear messaging on games either. Lots of people are heavily invested into back compat games that are not on PC. There's no clear way forward yet for those who to go into the cloud if the home console gets phased out. There's some of that I do agree with, but if you are looking at the three consoles being Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony, Xbox has put way more investment into multiple ecosystems and backwards compatibility than Sony and Nintendo combined.
They're
Like
also the only ones to even talk about forward compatibility and making sure
Yeah.
that we can continue to play our games into the future, which
Yeah.
was a thing that specifically Sarah Bond pointed out back when they did that sit down on the podcast thing. That's also why they're doing all these updates that we're getting now as part of the This Is an Xbox campaign going forward. This is what they're doing. This is what they're working on. This is what people aren't liking, but it's setting us up better for our libraries. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I don't like. Okay, so the arguments are like, but I'm worried about my libraries, but then they give us more access to our libraries. Right? I'm worried about our library, but then they go and they add tons of games with dual entitlement, and they add game ownership as part of the cloud, which the 50 batch that just dropped is just the test batch to start out with. They're adding more, and their goal is to add almost every game you own to be able to play via the cloud as well. And within the Xbox app for the dual entitlement thing, when I checked that update, I looked and there was like tons of games that I already owned that were there now natively to download. And this is also something that said they're continuing to work on it and improve on an update. So they're doing like what the concern is, right? Within that's what they're actively working on it, and they're the only ones doing that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like out of the
So-
big three, if you're going to talk about like you're worried about compatibility, Xbox out of the big three,
the only ones ensuring compatibility for the future
are the ones assuring compatibility.
Yeah,
so if you were to, you can't. If I was on Sony, I would be more worried about compatibility. If I was on Nintendo, I would be more worried about compatibility than Xbox, just based on where Xbox is headed. That's me personally. But do they have everything yet? No, they don't. But they are setting it up. They've just recently started doing stuff with the Xbox and PC and some other stuff. But yeah, I'm to that point. You mentioned some other stuff I want to talk about too, but that was just one thing I saw. one thing I do see people talk about a lot is when you say, the problem is if you keep telling people they don't need an Xbox, people will stop buying the Xbox. To me, it gets into a couple other conversations about marketing, how to market the Xbox and what they're doing right now. I will say that a lot of people are already cemented with where they want to be. Like if you have a PS5, PS4, you're probably going to stay within that ecosystem. Same thing with Xbox. But I get it. That is something that is Xbox. Like they have to figure out how they want to market it. I think This Is an Xbox is a good campaign in my opinion, just because it's saying like that these are multiple devices that are an Xbox. It's not saying that one is not an Xbox. It's saying that, and it's not telling you to not buy. It's just giving you more options. It's what I like about the campaign is like, here are the options where you can still access your games. It's not saying that this isn't an Xbox. These are Xbox. It's not saying that. It's saying this is an Xbox. This is Xbox because you can access your games on multiple devices.
Those ads are not for the people that are already invested in the Xbox ecosystem playing on console.
Yeah. That too. Yeah,
like those ads are for the other person. Is like, oh my god, I can play Xbox games on this thing. I didn't even know. Like it's not. It's to attract new consumers to the ecosystem. Yep. Like they are going and trying to reach as many people as possible. They're not going to sell a billion consoles. You know what I mean? Like. And yes, they may sell less because you don't technically need one. But by attracting all these other customers that can buy games, I mean, they lose money when they sell a console, right? The console is a storefront access point. It's a means to an end for them, right? They're still going to give the people that want one the option to buy a console because they don't want to lose those customers.
Yeah, Sony has been trying to mitigate that loss, but historically, all three consoles, except maybe Nintendo, have sold their consoles at a loss. So then you're asking the question of like, well, why are they selling their consoles at a launch? It's because they want people to get into their software.
Yeah, it's like you sell the storefront. The box is access to the storefront, right? You're selling this to the customers so that way you can make money on them in the long run on purchases and subscriptions and all these other kind of things. Right. Well, like phones and PCs, like that's just more customers that don't need to buy a separate device, right? Also for PlayStation, they didn't, for anybody that owns a PlayStation, the 70 extra % or whatever they're making from all those customers, maybe even 80 depending on the game, I'm not sure. But that's extra money that helps fund their games too. Now, the risk they lose is, well, we might lose some console sales. But let's just be real on the amount of consoles they've been selling anyway. And yeah, a lot of us console enthusiasts wanted to have them make an extra surge, extra push to take a bite out of Sony and then, take a bigger, huge market share. But they're past that at this point. Yeah, they've made that decision. They're just looking at the bigger picture in the long run now and less interested in just competing one on one in the console space against Sony. Instead, they're going to continue to sell to everybody that could be interested potentially in playing an Xbox game, including the Xbox core enthusiasts, by selling consoles still to them that are interested in buying them. And they're going to have to make those devices compelling and good to get us to still buy them. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they come out with. But they're not abandoning the console space. It's just a part of it now. They've been slowly doing this ever since last generation. So it's really not much of a difference. The biggest difference is the games that go on PlayStation, right? So overall, if the games go on PlayStation, people don't like to see that because PlayStation isn't giving anything to Xbox. But at the end of the day, your experience as an Xbox gamer doesn't change. It's only getting better right now.
Yep. Yep.
And it doesn't matter what the ad says, Satya says, whatever he says or whatever. It's just like, look at your experience. And that tells you everything you need to know. How many games we have looking forward to in 2025 coming into Game Pass day and date? I mean, my God. Like,
yep. It's absolutely ridiculous. But a lot of people have that mentality, which is why I want to address it. It's like Xbox's roadmap. It makes sense why they're doing what they're doing. Poison mentioned like the ROI and investment, who actually has a say. That gets into other conversations which we can have, but I feel like I answered it pretty good. But Fuzzy, let's bring you into the conversation, brother. Paul Tassi, his article, what me and Mav was talking about. What are your thoughts, brother?
I think the big thing now is that there's going to be two distinct paths. Path one, if you're a console owner and primarily play on console, no real interest in PC or a portable PC or handheld like the ROG Ally or Steam Deck and stuff like that. I don't think much really changes for you. Yes, it seems like there's less of a focus, but they're still going to be making hardware. There's still going to be a path moving forward with the new hardware. The exception, and it's not that it's an exception, but my prediction in that mix is that physical will eventually go away. They haven't said it, but it's kind of the writing on the wall at this point. So I would, if I was in that position, I would start to move my physical library to digital, if at all possible. Because at least with digital, that is something that would be transferable or still playable on a retro device, let's just say, type of thing. Physical is definitely on its last leg. I'm not saying that it's completely gone next gen, but I'm surprised it's made it this far, to be honest with you, considering that PC's kind of done away with, Blu-ray drives and whatnot almost a decade ago at this point. So on the console path, I recommend digital. Yes, I know it's less ownership, but even with physical, it's been less ownership. Like a license key kind of thing. In some cases, the full game isn't on there, and considering how many updates via the web, a lot of those on-game disc things, if you don't have a subscription or internet or whatever, it's not going to really matter because you're not going to have a playable state game in some cases. The other path is for those that are on console or at least have a console, this is not locking you to that device. And I know that may not sound like the best scenario, but moving forward, whether you care to play games on your phone or care to play games on your tablet, like I think the biggest thing is just try remote play or streaming from your console to another device in the house. Unless you only game in the one room and there's no other family member that needs that TV at any given time, then it's probably not going to apply in that regard. But streaming to a tablet or one of these ROG Allies or Steam Deck or having it where in like a ROG Ally case, having some of the games on there natively, the dual entitlement where you can play those games on those portable devices or PC or your laptop, I think is a huge step forward. It's almost like the way MP3s are to some extent. Like before, the whole deal was you had to have a CD player and you played your CDs only on that CD and that was it. And hopefully you had a CD player in your car or you had the adapter where you had the tape with the wire that you'd put in there type of thing to connect it or an auxiliary cable or something. But we've moved on beyond that. Like I don't see many cars with CD players in the dash anymore. Most of them are either Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So we've come a long way in a short period of time, and I feel like gaming is while it may seem like it's being forced in that direction to some extent, it kind of is because these big tech companies are tired of spending money on physical media to some extent, and on the second end of the things, they want to have it where they can reach more people with a lower entry point as far as getting them into the ecosystem. Like the whole this is an Xbox not being geared towards the console player, being geared towards the person that may already have the tablet or laptop or PC or may have been on the fence at getting a Series S because they already have a PS5 or they have a Switch. That commercial is to basically get them in the ecosystem buying software either on PlayStation hardware or their PC or through a browser or whatever the case may be, because it's a lot easier to get $70 out of that person than getting, let's say, the $300 for the Series S and the 70. So this whole strategy is to get more players into the door that may not have been willing to spend the 200 to 300, depending on whatever doorbuster deals might be at the stores during the holidays. You at least get the software sale from them. And like both Mav and 3-Bit mentioned, in most cases, consoles are at a loss. Now, Nintendo is a special case, but you also see how that thing is way behind the timeline as far as the tech inside of that.
Yeah.
We're talking about almost cell phone tech from like 10 years ago to some extent. But all things considered, it's still a popular device. Games are made specifically for it and play well, with very few exceptions. Some of them playing in the 20 frames area, but a majority of them play well on that device and people are happy with that experience. But if you can get people that may already have that device in their house to possibly play your games, that's going to be an easier ticket of you selling that $70 game to them, or maybe it's a lesser expensive game, but whatever the case may be, it's easier to sell them that than the $200 device and the $70 game, or whatever the case may be. So it's the whole push is to have more people monetized. And remember what Phil said in one of the interviews from a while back. You can either monetize your existing customers or you can find new customers to monetize. And while that doesn't mean a pile of beans to us as gamers, we just want the game, we turn on our console or our PC and the game is there kind of thing. Sony is doing the monetize their current customers with games that they already sold to them maybe 2 to 5 years ago, and now there's an updated version, a remaster or a remake or whatever the case may be, or oh, here's an upgrade. We saw that you had it last gen on the PS4, but now you got this PS5. Well, you want those DualSense features that we sold you on getting that PS5. Well, here, give us $10 so that way we can turn those features on for you, as opposed to you already spent the extra money getting the hardware to do that. You have to pay them extra to get that access. So that's them monetizing their existing customer base. That's not really going to be appealing to people maybe outside of the ecosystem unless they're buying the PS5 fresh out and then buying those games as new games because they're new to that ecosystem.
Yep.
With Xbox, instead of doing that type of stuff to their existing customer, and it's not that they're doing them to other customers, but they're finding those other customers by getting them to buy the game or buy the DLC or some of the skins and season passes for these free-to-play games. That's how you monetize, outside of your existing customer base to have more funding into your first party, your hardware, your R&D, and obviously shareholders, because that's what business is about these days. But I think we have to look at it as a lot of this talk, while it may not seem reassuring to existing console owners, it's not necessarily for those ears or for our ears in that regard. But it's more so letting people know that these games are available. You can access them a million different ways, even if you don't buy the console. And as far as for the messages that will be for the console players, it's going to be like their showcases or their dev directs with the games that are coming to the hardware that you already own. The announcements you see on social media as far as for Game Pass, if you're already an existing subscriber, because in their metrics, most of the people that own Xbox consoles own or currently have a current subscription to Game Pass. So a lot of that messaging is more so for the console owners. And then when they unveil the next generation console or a handheld, those will still be targeting that console base. So it's not that they're not necessarily going to have any more special messaging and that it's less relevant. It's just that the specific stuff for the console isn't ready yet. So the next hardware we'll hopefully see within the next year or hear more about it. But as far as the games, we're going to be hit with probably 2 or 3 directs next year. We already know it's going to be January, February for whatever announces the first part of the year. with Avowed being probably looped into that, more than likely South of Midnight being looped into that, and maybe a few other surprises outside of Doom, and the more recent surprise as far as Outer Worlds too. So take notice, the games are what is targeting the console, fan base. But as far as outside of that console fan base, they need to get more people buying the games to reinvest into the ecosystem. And then it will hopefully make sense when those that are on console give a try of playing the game while they're at the grocery store waiting in line on their phone, or maybe they are visiting family and brought a tablet or laptop with them and they can still get into their game from their family's house and stuff like that. So those are the things that they're trying to get us accustomed to, as opposed to completely abandoning the console space. Because, like I said, there's at least one more generation, I would say two, and then it's more than likely going to be to the point where either the controller or some sort of like puck device similar to like a Roku will be the equivalent of consoles, both on PlayStation side as well as Xbox side, because hardware and technology is just going to make it into a smaller package, stuff more hardware or tech in there, and AI being what they're going to probably lean on. It'll uplift things graphically from AI or whatever the case may be. So what a console looks like today versus a console 10 years from now are going to be, I believe, starkly different looking devices.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, you had so many different perspectives there, and that was very well said. I think a lot of people are disillusioned to Xbox's what is actually, I don't know. You had articles not even that long ago saying that Call of Duty made more money on Sony's device than Xbox. Like Xbox is not getting as much money, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, you guys, first off, they own Call of Duty, and that Sony gets like 20 to 30%, however the deal is. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are just disillusioned when it comes to Xbox, in terms of what makes money and what the market is actually saying. Like the console market is important to me. We're all console gamers, but they are essentially growing from there. But great conversations overall in chat. You guys made a lot of good points. It's stuff that is relevant. A lot of people are talking about, especially you, Froggy. A lot of people are bringing up those points. Like something Xbox has to figure out is the messaging. I feel like this is an Xbox was pretty good start to that. As someone who's in marketing, like something that we do before we put out an ad. I do ads for Holiday Inn, Aflac, a bunch of different restaurants. The first thing we do is like, who is our target audience, and how do we message towards them? Sure, there'll be ripple effects of like other people who's not the target will get that, and then they'll have reaction. Like if I'm putting out an ad for Aflac, for example, I'm not targeting people who already have Aflac. I'm targeting the people who don't have Aflac. So you need to re-educate people into what a brand is, and you need to do it several times before people start to understand. So yeah, a lot of things, and Alvin said a lot has changed since that statement was made. Can't expect them to still think like that too. Yeah, to be fair, yeah, a lot of things are changing as well. There was a point where Phil said something about I don't know, he said like 3 games or something like that. When he said that, we were all on the show like, yeah, it's not, this is no longer 3 games. Like as soon as that started to change, yeah, I agree, like that statement. But I think with where Xbox is headed, it makes sense. They just want to expand their ecosystem, make as much money as possible, make that ROI, especially after ABK. But console is still important to them. And they are, if you're worried about like sustainability, where the console market is headed, and all that, forward compatibility that stuff is staying. It's just growing from just to not just be focused on consoles, um, on the bigger picture of things. But great conversations, y'all. Um, let's get into like the second topic. Unless you guys have any lasting thoughts on that, because I know there's a lot what Fuzzy said, what I said. Do you guys have any lasting thoughts?
Just the last thing I'll say, like, there's just a lot of when the reactions happen, it's about the same thing being said over and over and over again. Like at some point, I think people just have to understand that this is like what is happening and not react again like this is the first time you've heard about it. So if you can't accept it, that's fine, and you can play wherever you want to. You know what I mean? Like that's what the kind of option that they're trying to give you. So you can always go that direction, and nobody's gonna blame you for it. But I would say that if you try and keep a level head, keep your emotions out of it, like, and just look at things from like your own experience as a customer and as a consumer, and what you're going to be playing and looking forward to, and all these kind of things, and kind of try and keep your minds on that stuff. Um, you might find that a lot of these changes are actually more of a benefit for you than it actually is a detriment, right? So, um, but time will tell, and we'll all have to kind of see how things happen over the next several years. And I'll be enjoying this massive pipeline of games this whole time.
Yeah, people value
more than anybody
different things. Like I value cheaper games as cheap as I can get. Game Pass is great. I value Xbox's ecosystem as a whole. If it goes on other platforms, I don't really care. Do I still have the console war guy in me? Like, yeah, Xbox is the best. Of course. I've grown up, being a fanboy of these different platforms. I was very much a Sega fanboy for a while. I was like, screw Nintendo, so I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I used to love hearing exclusive, you know what I mean? At the conferences, it's like, oh, wow, this is an exclusive.
Now it's like exclusive to everything.
Yeah. Now it's like we saw the writing on the wall when they stopped including those words.
Yep.
And before, you know what I mean? Like that was happened before this year. So
now it's ecosystem wars when Sony's, especially when Sony has their store, which they said they've been developing that. Like said that a while ago. I wonder.
I think. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you got.
I was gonna say the other part. Like I think, all in all, like this generation's been really interesting with this whole thing and how it's all played out. Like, COVID changed the course of how this generation could have gone in some ways, right? Because it created massive issues with pipelines where it affected Xbox earlier and then it affected PlayStation later, right? Xbox's mantra isn't to go and money had a bunch of second, third party games, which earlier this generation I was like, they should have done that until their pipeline got caught up, right? At the time, PlayStation, in order to subsidize their shortcoming of first party big titles, is doing remasters, remakes, and also doing a lot of second and third party money having deals. But now Xbox's first party pipeline is ticking. But as far as the console race this generation, it's already too late. You know what I mean? It's so as far as that goes, I think that's part of the decision in it, but also ABK, right? When Xbox and them internally probably knew this was the future of gaming anyway. This is where things were going to be headed. This is why they've been implementing a lot of the features and all these other kind of things in with the cloud and talking about even a couple years ago adding game ownership to the cloud, all these other kind of things, putting games on multiple devices. They already knew that that's going to be the long-term thing, but once they acquired ABK and put that on the books and had access to their games, it put a massive acceleration on it. And I think instead of them slowly getting everybody along, like
You're like, all right,
E-
come on.
but they doing so, they're doing it faster than PlayStation by years, right? PlayStation is far behind. I mean, they're just now shrinking the gap for PC day and date.
Yep.
PlayStation will eventually get to the same point. I'm not saying they're necessarily going to put games on Xbox as much, maybe more of the multiplayer stuff in the long run. Uh, but as far as growing the ecosystem into all the different devices, PlayStation is going to be doing the same thing, right?
Yep.
But Xbox had to hit the accelerator, or they didn't. I don't know if they had to, but they decided to. They decided, fuck it. Sorry, excuse me. I know we don't do that here, but
go ahead.
they decided, screw it. We're going to hit the pedal to the metal now, and like just it's going to rub people the wrong way because we're accelerating at a pace and anybody in the console diehard community is comfortable with.
Mhm.
But it's the direction we're going, and we're just going to go there. And I kind of, in a way, I kind of like it that they're just like, because how many times have they catered so much to this audience of like of console gamers when they're get upset about things and they make massive changes left and right and all these other kind of things. They're always like adjusting and changing things. It's like it just pick a direction and go. And I think that's what they're doing now, right?
Yep.
And they did it mainly because of ABK, and they're weren't able to close the gap on the console market.
Yeah, it's definitely different strategies. Like when you're really looking at where Sony is right now, where Xbox is, Sony is very much relying on third-party deals, and it's also evolving in the market where a lot of third-party developers are starting to be like, this isn't a good deal. Like, I'm actually restricting my market of potential sales. There's been a couple examples of that. With being Square Enix, there was the developers from that one game. Why am I struggling to remember the name? Where they basically said, "Screw you, Sony. I'm not doing that deal." What the heck was the name?
Pearl Abyss, I think.
Pearl
Yeah,
Abyss.
For Crimson,
Desert. Yeah.
Crimson Desert. So we're starting to see examples of even third-party developers realizing that it doesn't really help us to restrict our console market to just Sony, which does hurt Sony's current business plan to basically the gap that they have of, well, we don't have a lot of first parties this year. Let's basically buy some publishers stuff. If publishers start seeing the light and like, yeah, we're not going to do that, that does hurt Sony's business plan. And it's just like interesting to see the strategies of where Sony is going, how they are adapting as well, because for a while Sony has been relying on third-party games, remakes, remasters to fill that gap, because a lot of their games are they take a long time to make, and they're not live service games, so the ROI is a lot lower than something that you would get for a Call of Duty game, something that you would get even for Halo, or Elder Scrolls. I remember we looked at how much Elder Scrolls Online makes, some game that no one talks about in the media as much, makes an insane amount of money. I can't remember
I mean,
how
PlayStation players are playing Overwatch. That's
that too.
Like,
and then you get the top played games on PlayStation being Xbox titles. So there's a lot of conversation there.
The other aspect to, again, real quick, like you mentioned earlier when you were speaking about the second third party deals again from PlayStation, and a lot of things I keep seeing is about how PlayStation's still doing those deals and taking things away from Xbox, right? But Xbox is giving games to PlayStation. But like Xbox has way more devs, studios, and they also have they have 3 publishing arms at this point, like 3 major publishing arms, right? And a lot of the games still are timed exclusives going from Xbox to PlayStation. For example, Indiana Jones, some may go day and date, some may not go at all. We don't know. Like I said, it'll be case by case, but everything can be considered, right? But a lot of the PlayStation, in order to help get exclusives to PlayStation, is doing those second, third party deals, right? But what people are losing in this conversation is a lot of those second, third party deals are also going to end up being timed exclusive. So it's really kind of about this, probably going to be about the same amount of like true exclusives as far as like published games or like deals that they make. Games like Black Myth Wukong was one that was under the table kind of deal that they did. You could see Silent Hill 2 end up going to Xbox. You could see other games like that, like in those kind of
Tina,
deals.
um,
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I mean, time and time again, like Stray was a big one that they celebrated. That's on
oh
Xbox,
yeah,
right? There's tons of
Sifu
games.
as well.
Yeah.
Sifu, no, yeah. I mean, you could keep going down the list, right? When they do the deals for second, third party to be the way that you're promoting your exclusives, you're also going to be beholden to what your contracts are and what the developers and publishers are going to be willing to do, right? And a lot of them aren't going to be willing to do full time for always exclusive games, right? We saw what happened because they didn't have full control of Death Stranding 2. They ended up having to sell it back to Kojima for whatever reason. So Death Stranding is on Xbox
Oh yeah,
now.
another example. Yep.
So there's going to be more and more examples. This generation, we've seen several former PlayStation exclusives go to Xbox. Why? Because they're second, third party games that were done deals for, right? And so if you put apples to apples as far as timed exclusivity and things like that, it's kind of going to be about the same,
Yep.
except for some of the major big things that they got to use to sell their console, like the first party games. That's where the big difference is.
Yep. And that's a great conversation. Like I think a lot of those publishers, I think it will start to lessen a lot more as they're just seeing the light. I think Square Enix is finally realizing that with the amount of statements they've been making recently. Like, yeah, we want to go to all platforms. What does that mean? They've been on PC, they've been on Sony. They want to go on Xbox and Switch and stuff like that. So that is changing. How Sony is going to adapt to that strategy, that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
That just means probably the day and date will get shorter. I know they want to build their store, and Xbox, they are doing their strategy right now. They're basically ahead in a lot of ways. So we'll see what Sony does. All right, let's get to our second topic, y'all. So Witcher 4, got Witcher 4 on the screen, has had kind of a wave of different topics coming around it. Courtesy of Fuzzy Belvedere, he sent me an article from Gaming Bible, which essentially wrote an article titled "Witcher 4 Unplayable for Millions," which to me reeks of clickbait. A lot of it, as nothing has been confirmed yet, but essentially goes into the fact that the game may only be available on next gen devices. The article reads, and I quote, "What's more," from CD Projekt Red, "we're also getting a sequel to Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher 4, which was finally revealed at the recent Game Awards. So it's fair to say that the Polish developer will be kept busy for quite a while. Without giving too much away, the recent cinematic reveal trailer for The Witcher 4 not only confirmed that Ciri is the lead protagonist, but it also canonized a particular ending to The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt." There's more here, but Jeff said something in the show. He said like Geralt is the protagonist. This is just a side thing. I remember him saying that. So it leads me to believe it'll be similar to The Witcher 3. I'll get to that. But anyways, as exciting as it is knowing that The Witcher 4 is on the way, the fourth numbered entry in the popular fantasy RPG series could be unplayable for millions of fans, they say. Much like the remake of the original game, we know that The Witcher 4 is being powered by Unreal Engine 5, which should confirm that it will be released on current platforms. However, as confirmed in a blog post by CDPR, The Witcher 4 cinematic reveal trailer is powered by an unannounced NVIDIA GeForce RTX GPU graphics card. That is a wordful. This has led some fans to believe that The Witcher 4 might not be released on PS5 or Series X. Okay. Doubt that, but okay. I'm a little, these are different quotes they start doing from fans. I'm a little scared for Xbox Series X and PS5 owners, says Redditor Homemade Shock. Another one says, I don't think it's an accident that CDPR did not specify what platforms it's releasing on, pointed out by Blackthorn or Orion. Another one says, I'd expect it's either targeting PS6 or whatever Microsoft calls its next Xbox, or it's technically cross-gen but barely runs on PS5, Xbox Series. Homemade Shock replied. Ending the quote, this last part. To be fair, there should be a real concern that The Witcher 4 might not be released on current systems, following the launch woes of Cyberpunk 2077 on PS4 and Xbox One. End quote. I don't agree with this article at all, but my opinion is if a developer wants to focus resources for next gen consoles, being Series X, I mean, I guess that's current gen, Series X, PS5, basically want to focus resources on higher end hardware, that is perfectly fine with me. However, I will always stand by the fact that we are in a generation where it's much easier to scale to different hardwares because of the current architecture. Been saying this since for forever, right? And that's always kind of shown with the system specs. A lot of system specs are usually lower than the Series X and PS5. Of course, with the Series S, you got to do handle the stuff for the GPU and stuff like that. But we've seen amazing developers figure that out. So while I was a fan of CD Projekt Red's engine, Unreal Engine is a lot more accessible. We will see performance-wise what that translates to, as we now have 2 examples of games using their own proprietary engines. Halo using Slipspace, and now CDPR using they use their Red engine. Both of those are moving to the Unreal Engine, so that would be great example cases for what's going to happen. So just nerdy things right now. I'm gonna get a little bit into nerdy talk just because Unreal Engine 5 just released 5.5, which I played around with. I still do a little bit of game engine stuff here and there. Did some stuff for, well, I can't say, but is currently they're on 5.5, which has like a panel cloth editor, which basically makes it a bit easier to have skin weight algorithms for better cloth sims. So when you're looking at the things in Witcher, like basically when a cloth is moving around, having like natural wrinkles in the clothes and things like that, it's a lot easier to do in the latest version of Unreal Engine. You have like skeletal editors. Right now, what I do when I'm animating and bringing it into like the Unreal Engine, it's like usually you work in another software to do animations. Like I'll do like a run cycle or something in Maya, or 3ds Max is a popular one. And then you import those to Unreal Engine. They are making that a lot easier, so you never have to leave Unreal Engine with its skeletal editor. And then they made some enhancements to the engine itself, and some optimization stuff. And this thing called VCam, which is like really good for mocap shoots, where you basically you look at behind the scenes, they're looking at like an iPad. They made some enhancements to those, so they just released that. I hope developers use it. I know they like to use older, like they'll use 5.1 instead of 5.5, and then they're like, we don't want to update. I understand why they don't do that. They just stick to their thing. It's always a conversational piece in many different softwares, not just Unreal Engine. Like if I'm working in Photoshop 23 and all of a sudden I use 25, it's like there's always things missing or something like that. Anyways, nerd talk over. It would be an interesting conversation on like when those games launch, will it have performance problems? What are the conversations around Unreal Engine? How will those conversations evolve and stuff like that? I didn't agree with this article at all. Like it doesn't make sense to me, business sense, for them to just release on next gen. I don't like. I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, they had like performance issues. That means they're scared. They're not going to release it on the Series X and PS5 because of what happened and stuff like." I think that's bogus. If I was CD Projekt Red, I wouldn't do that. Especially the Series X and PS5 are very capable systems. They are both. We've seen. There's too many examples of amazing looking games for me to even like bring this up seriously. Of like what is capable on these consoles. So the Unreal Engine, it has its issues here and there that we're starting to see with like performance disparities and things like that. But just wanted to take it in this direction, see what you guys think about Witcher 4 and being unplayable and what you guys thought about Witcher 4, all the things. So I'll bring it to you first, Mav. Everything I said, talked a lot. It's up to you.
Man,
what have you thought about it?
I don't understand what they're even talking about, to be honest with you. I mean, like, it's a game that's years and years away. Probably be 5 years away. Maybe. I don't even know. Like, maybe we're lucky 4. Like, so it's gonna come out. It'll be on the engine that it's on, and it'll be available on the devices that it's on. Like, what are they? I don't even understand what they're trying to say. Like, because it's Unreal Engine, it's not going to be playable.
I think they're
like,
saying,
like,
I think
about every other freaking game that's an Unreal Engine. I don't understand the point.
Yeah, I think it's
explain
honestly,
it to me like I'm an idiot, because I feel like one right now.
I think it's rippling. It's honestly, Mav, I think it's rippling conversational effects because of things we talked about at the Game Awards, where people are hating Witcher for not them not seeing Geralt right away. So people are kind of creating conversational pieces already, like negative hit pieces, and this is just one of them.
Because this one doesn't make any damn sense.
Yeah.
They're trying to equate like what was it, Cyberpunk 2077. Remember how you didn't see any gameplay of it on like the PS4 or the Xbox One? They're trying to equate this to that because the card that was used from NVIDIA to render that
is an
gameplay
unannounced
footage,
NVIDIA card.
Yeah, it's probably a 59.
Yeah, that's because this game's like probably, like I said, 4, 5, 6 years. So that they're just having a deal with NVIDIA, and they're like trying to generate some excitement where people are like, "Oh, this is the next NVIDIA card" or whatever. Like, it's obvious what that is. Do we not think that the games in the future will be playable on the devices that we own? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, there's no logic in anything this person says. Obviously, the game is going to be places to play.
Yeah.
And on devices.
Like, is this going to be available on consoles?
Right. Like, we can criticize them again for their launch on last gen hardware when Cyberpunk 2077 came out. Yeah, we can do that all day. Does that have anything to do with this game? I mean, no. We'll have to wait and see how that launches on, if it launches on current gen, which it may or may not. And we're talking specifically about consoles at this point, right? But they didn't even make a console announcement here, so like they just said it was running on. I don't think it said the consoles that it's going to be on.
They haven't announced anything. It's just, it's honestly
just the NVIDIA
it's just,
card.
Hey, we're making The Witcher freaking 4 and Ciri's the main character, and it's really far away. And for people to say like, "Hey, this isn't going to be playable," like what? I don't. I'm sorry. That whole, that's some kind of like deep, like rabbit hole of conversation that just like, it doesn't make any sense. people will argue and complain or talk about anything these days, to look for something to complain about.
Yep.
And every single game seems like it gets dragged down in the mud somewhere or another. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to The Witcher 4. I think it's going to be an amazing game. I think the move to Unreal Engine, like with other developers, hopefully will help smooth some things out for them. In a game like this, it's going to be a lot of developers working on it. So I look at Halo as an example of making a similar move. A major franchise that has a huge fan base transitioning into engines, right? This is the only thing I would say is like I don't know if they needed to switch engines because their engine now is amazing.
Yeah, I love their engine again.
But Unreal Engine 5, if used right, the tools are used properly, can be great as well. We've seen numerous examples of that. So yeah, I just hope it's amazing when it comes out. Can't wait to play it. But it'll probably be 2027, 2028 at the earliest.
Yep. And I guess one of the reasons why I want to bring this topic up, because it gets into a conversation of how, I guess, how not only how toxic the gaming community can be, but like the conversational pieces, like hit pieces, like if they really don't like a game, like what they do with Hogwarts essentially.
Crap. Yeah.
It will have nothing to do with the game itself, like how much Hogwarts sold and stuff, but they refuse to put it in like the Game Awards and stuff like that because of J.K. Rowling. It gets into like these other conversations where I'm like, do you actually care about this? Like they haven't. This is so early, and you're worried like, oh, it's not gonna. I don't think that's what this is about. I think it's about a couple things, but yeah, it's honestly really dumb.
People were upset that Ciri is the main character, and then other people were upset that not that Ciri was the main character, but they were upset that she wasn't as attractive as she used to be when she was younger. And like and then now you have the like I don't understand what's going on in gaming conversation these days. People say it's the pendulum swinging. I'm saying stop swinging the thing and just like accept these things for what they are, and if you like it, you like it, and if you don't, you don't, right? But like, you don't have to be the one swinging it, you know. You don't have to be the one trying to say, well, things need to be like this or things need to be like that. It's like the game looks awesome, a character looks great. It's Ciri, it makes sense for the story. The whole Unreal Engine conversation with the game not going to be playable is one of the stupidest things I think I've ever heard.
Yep. And it to me it also shows you who actually played the game or not, because a lot of people who are saying like oh, we're playing as Ciri now. You played as Ciri in Witcher 3. That's where I'm like, you guys did not play the game at all. Like you don't even know. You just need something to complain about, because in Witcher 3 a lot of the game you do play as Ciri. So was it Wolf Den? Oh, I don't get it.
Right. But like it's the opposite. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like the Hogwarts is like from the opposite crowd, right? So it's like, it's like you have different people. Like Assassin's Creed Shadows is from, like it's like.
Oh yeah.
Do you like? I just don't understand people that it's claimed they didn't like cancel culture before, but now want to try and do cancel culture themselves in a different way, right?
Reverse cancel culture.
It's like, hey, but you can't say anything because y'all were the ones doing it. Now we get to do it. It's like it's our turn to cancel culture. Like,
yeah, it just becomes irrelevant
get over
to
all of that stuff, man.
Like, I don't know. It turns into this thing where it has nothing to do with the game anymore. It's like these
100%.
Little things that people like, well, are they wearing a jacket or are they wearing a shirt? Like it gets into these pointless.
Yeah, like the intergalactic game.
That too
as well. Like that's the other one. Like it's just like, can I just like get allowed to be excited for this game? Like I'm like, oh yeah, this is amazing. Oh, holy crap! They're wearing Adidas shoes. It's awesome. I love Adidas. Like, and like, it's cool.
Yeah.
And then I see afterwards, and it's like,
They didn't even watch
this
the
is
same
what
trailer.
everybody is talking about. Not talking about the game. They're talking
I'm like,
about
is it
the
fun to
fact that
play? Does it have an interesting story?
all they care about
Cool.
is that the main character girl shaved her head. Like I'm like, what? Really? Like, were we having this conversation back in the day when we watched a movie or something that had a female main protagonist that's strong,
Oh.
like woman, like that had a shaved head? I mean, no. I
Yeah.
I just I don't understand how we've gotten to this point. Like it looked awesome, man. So, Witcher 4 looks awesome. Like these are games that I want to celebrate.
Yeah. I will never care for those conversations in my opinion. Like you have people so mad about so trivial things, where I'm just like, it looks cool. Like I'm just looking for different things. Does it look fun to play? Do I like the art style? Do I like the world? Cool. I don't care about all these little trivial things that people like. Why does she have a braid? Like this is dumb things. Honestly, I could care less. But gets the other conversation. Fuzzy, your thoughts, man. Witcher 4, the article, what we talked about. What are your thoughts, man?
All right, I'll start with the article. Yes, it is a dumb article. Because I figured we'll touch on this one before we even go into any other stuff. But it's like, I get it. Cyberpunk 2077 ran like crap on the PS4 and Xbox One to some extent. Those were Jaguar Core, consoles. It's a world of difference comparing the Series X and S as well as the PS5 this go around. I'm not saying that they're going to run, Witcher 4 perfectly. I think cross-gen is a lot more doable with our current hardware in comparison to our previous hardware. Because bear in mind, Cyberpunk came out at the tail end of that hardware, which was already 10 years older than what PCs were using. So that's why there was that big of a discrepancy. And a lot of us that played it on the next gen hardware, being the current gen now, didn't have quite the issues or any issues at all in a lot of cases. So Jaguar cores were the big problem for Cyberpunk 2077. Should they have known better than to put it on that hardware? Probably, but they figured they could figure something out, scale it back, and nobody would be any the wiser or complain. But all of that being said, I don't think that there'll be quite the issue. And first of all, I don't think Witcher 4 comes out until 27 or 28, possibly. I'd be amazed if it comes out sooner than that, but this is just an early look. Sure, it's on an unannounced 5090. These companies are going to have hardware that us average Joes can't get just yet. That hardware will be available probably February, March time if you want to spend over $1,000 on a card, maybe 2,000 even. But all of that being said, I still think that they'll make it playable for what's in the PC space today. If you have like a 3080 or 7800 series card, I don't think you'll have much to worry about. Sure, you may have to turn the shadow quality down or, maybe go from ultra down to high and be happy with the glory of the high graphics as opposed to ultra. But I don't think many people complain because they'll still look awesome. But as far as like the PS5, Series X and S, I think this game will be fine. Maybe it's only 30 frames like a lot of other UE5 games in that regard. And then maybe if you get a PS6 or an Xbox Series X2 or whatever they decide to call it, then maybe those consoles will be at the 60 frames or better at that point. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's them trying to read tea leaves that nobody asked for, but it is what it is. Now, as far as the whole Siri thing, the people being upset about the game in certain regards or the lore, the books, and I get it. The game strayed a little bit from the books.
Yep.
that tends to happen. That happens with movies. If we're going to nitpick over every detail in a fantasy game, then probably find another hobby or just pass the game by. Just don't buy it. Don't bother watching the trailers for it. You don't need that type of stress in your life if it makes you upset or angry. Just find something else that's more of your zen. Maybe Tetris. I don't know. But all things said, I don't think that there's going to be quite the pushback that some of the grifters on the internet are going to try to push for this game. I think the final product will probably show up much better, and much like people started to say, "Oh, is indie going to be woke?" And it's like, no, just play the game, enjoy the game for the game, give the game a chance, as opposed to trying to look for problems. If we spend all this time looking for problems, of course we're going to find a problem here or there, but then doesn't that defeat the purpose of the hobby of enjoying games? But all of that said, I am going to say I'm going to be that guy that's mad about Intergalactic. You know what I'm mad about? That they use a Porsche instead of a Tesla. Why isn't everybody complaining that they didn't use a Tesla? Like, they already make spaceships. I know this game is supposed to be like a weird retro future active thing where it's 1986, but we had some sort of boom in technology years and years prior.
Only certain kinds, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why isn't it a Tesla? Why has it got to be a Porsche?
I'm surprised
nobody's
still
complaining
around by that time. That was what I was.
Did Tesla even exist? I don't know. Is Elon still with PayPal at that
Teslas
point?
will be exclusive to Elon's AI game company.
I was surprised Adidas was still around. I'm just saying.
Yeah, man, you got Sony disc players, you got the Adidas, you had the Porsche. I wonder. It makes me curious what else they'll put in there. I thought it was pretty cool.
What food product they're going to have? Is it going to be Subway sandwiches and Monster Energy drinks, or
it'll be timeless, right? Twinkies are timeless.
They got to have some kind of soda,
Yeah, like
it feels more like a Pepsi moment, like
RC Cola. Let's go, RC baby.
We're getting the off-brand, man.
Hey, off-brand. That was Dr. Pepper's version of Coke back in the day, which is not very good. RC is just, I was never a fan.
Yeah, RC wasn't bad, but it's like you definitely knew you were stepping down to some extent.
It was about as good as like the store brand's Coke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like whatever the store brand Coke was, like RC was maybe they're just slightly better.
Yeah.
I hope they have
a little sweeter, more bubbles.
Yeah. But yeah, 100%. I think people just worry about very trivial things, like I was saying. And it's to the point, like, do you actually enjoy gaming? Let me see what you're playing. If you're complaining about series scar or hairs or like, oh, she's bald, why is she bald, I want her to have like luscious hair, like, what are you playing? Let me see what you're playing at this point. Because are you actually enjoying games? Are you okay? Like, I don't know. The only thing I kind of got behind of like, yeah, you should change that was Sonic when they changed Sonic. I didn't like
because it was more like nightmare fuel than the Sonic we grew up on. It's like, ew, what is that? Like,
yeah. And I'm a fan of Sonic, so I was like, yeah, you got to change that, and I'm glad they did. But in terms of this whole conversation where people are getting into these silo conversations of like of what actually matters nowadays, I'm not a fan of it. And I feel like what I'm not a fan of is it dominates the conversation of the actual game, like what they displayed in the trailer, for example. Like you had artists work on Intergalactic, probably that trailer for like maybe a year, right? And they worked on it for a year, put painstaking detail, put put all this detail into the ship, and then you have a guy like, I don't like your hair. That's maybe it's because I've been on that side of development, like putting all this detail of like an environment and all this work, and then you have someone like walk by and like that sucks, and then they walk away. Like it is the artistry in games is something that I appreciate. I can like enjoy look and world of a game. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. Let's get into some of the comments, and then and then we'll get into the Game Awards. It's Fuzzy. You want to lead that one?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Let's see. That game trailer, this is from Froggy T, right? The game trailer had a lot of product placement. Yeah, that's the point. I think if you look at the cyberpunk, I mean, it's not cyberpunky. It's more like, I don't know, analog, futurism with a hint of cyberpunk with the like some of the colors on the ship and stuff like that. It's kind of like Cowboy Bebop meets I don't know, like I don't know. It's a very interesting style. It's not like super futuristic. It has like elements of like the past, which I love that aesthetic. That's like in Aliens, for example. Like Aliens is supposed to be futuristic, right? But you put in VHS tapes and I absolutely love that aesthetic whenever someone does.
I think the best example that I think of is like Back to the Future, right? How they have when he goes to the future and Back to the Future 2, I guess, right? When he goes to the future and he has like the hoverboard, but like but he has like Nikes, the inflatable Nikes on, or the self-lacing Nikes, right? There's like, it goes into the diner or whatever, and then there's like the Pepsi commercial, stuff like that. They even had like another one you could look at is like Demolition Man, how they had like Taco Bell, right? In there, but it was like Taco Bell is different, I like stuff like that. It makes it feel like, okay, it's based on our world, but it's a different reality. You know what I mean? So I like that kind of stuff because it kind of familiarizes yourself to ground it to a familiar area. But now it's also different. So you get to see this stuff like in a different way. And it's just kind of awesome.
Yeah, it reminds me of Starfield having elements of like oh, NASA used to exist. It builds it in your world, and then like, well, what happened to NASA? I love that stuff. Like Adidas exists in this universe. What the heck? Okay, what happened to other brands? Like it's another form of storytelling, but it makes sense for a game like this. Especially if you look at stuff like Cyberpunk, where or even Blade Runner. If you guys watch Blade Runner, they have all these advertisements like in your face because it's kind of replicating what we see in our everyday life. So super cool. You have Web Dave coming on in saying Mav, and he's saying yo to Fuzzy and me. What's up, man? You guys are talking about sexy characters. I'm all about sexy characters. I love sexy characters. But Alvin says probably coconut water. Naughty Dog isn't in the fast food lane. Yeah, I want to see some vitamin water. Get that's 50 Cent's brand, right? He did. Yeah, that's his brand.
He sold some shares or something.
Oh, okay.
I'm starting to wonder with those ads in there if that's a way for them to pay for like $300 million games now. Like normally you would pay for licensing, but like if Adidas is advertising in there and Porsche is advertising in there, maybe they're giving Naughty Dog or Sony some money to put towards the film, kind of thing, and then they're using their own, I guess, Sony artist catalog. So since they probably own some of the rights to some of that music, they don't really have to pay extra for it, kind of deal. But yeah, I just I don't have a problem with it. Like Mav said, it makes you feel like it's like grounded in reality, like you could be there. It's the stuff that you would normally recognize today. Just it's a different different look, like a retro future kind of thing. But yeah, I think that might be Sony's in to avoid having $300 million budgets and not knowing if they're going to sell 10 or 20 million copies
I
or something
mean,
like that.
you were worried about licensing for Spider-Man. You got freaking Porsche. You got Adidas. Oh man, like I'm sure there's a lot more brands and a lot more licensing things in this game. Um, and I wonder, does that mean it could get delisted? Let's say Adidas like, I don't want my. I guess you could just change it
I don't think they would have accepted a deal with any of these brands that would cause them
if it
to
get
be
delisted.
delisted just for having like your shoes on the character.
I mean, but that's why Forza has to go offline.
Yeah, but they need the cars, right?
Hmm.
You know, and they had special contracts with all these different car manufacturers and stuff. So like they don't have to put Adidas shoes on the character if they don't want to.
Yeah.
Is that like it would be like, oh, okay, well if we put Adidas on our shoes, we'd have to delist it in 2 years according to our contract. That would be like the stupidest business decision ever. Like
But I'm just saying,
now, since the update,
I gotta give Sony and Naughty Dog a little bit more credit than that.
But what I'm saying, like, there's always somewhat of a licensing issue when you're bringing it to new consoles. Like, for example, we can't play Tony Hawk games right now, probably because of
anything with it comes to like marketed placement of like advertising with things like that. They have to probably be just okay with whatever. Like I wouldn't accept a deal
or something.
Yeah, because it's not a you're not going to do something that's going to risk your ability to sell that product by accepting an advertisement into your game. Like, you know what I mean? It would just wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, I just say it gets into a weird category when you start putting it on. You know, Sony likes to remaster, you know, different stuff like that, and then they have to go back to these like, hey, we know we put on PS5, we're gonna put it on PS6.
Yeah, if anything, they would just update the game and take out the shoe.
Take it out.
Like, yeah. Oh, she's got skips now.
If there was like an issue with that, they would just update it and change and remove those images.
Yeah, they're like, oh, she got Heelys now. Oh, yeah. We'll see what they end up doing with that.
She's wearing New Balance. What's going on?
They just keep changing the brand. Oh my gosh. Mr. Waffle saying you're putting way too much faith in Neil to deliver a game with a good story. I think he's a great story writer. If you didn't like Last of Us Part 2, I mean, Part 1 was known as a masterpiece. So you can like pick and choose. Like something I can never agree with. Like if you don't like one person, like let's say you didn't like one movie from like Christopher Nolan, does that mean the rest or he's just terrible as a director? I don't know. I know people have mixed feelings about his directing style and stuff like that. And maybe it's not your favorite, but I never got the mentality like, oh, he made one bad thing, I hate everything. That means he's trash every department.
He killed Joel. You can never forgive that.
Yeah,
he killed Joel.
Like I don't know. Maybe that's just my mentality, but I can not like one product of a person, but like they've proven that they're somewhat talented. You know, especially making Last of Us 1, which is known as a masterpiece for a lot of people. And he did write that one. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I mean, I'm in the camp where I like Last of Us Part 2. I understood some of the criticisms, but like, I mean, I liked both of them. I like Part 1, Part 2. So I don't know, but I did have criticism. You got Poison Maniac saying we'll see Neil miss with Last of Us 2 story in majority of people's opinions, but he can maybe get something good here. I don't know, or he could be a bad writer. Just depends on what he delivers. Yeah, I mean, it could go either way, I guess. Like again, he did great in Part 1. People didn't like 2. That's okay, but he also did stuff for Uncharted and things like that. If you like the Uncharted games, so yeah. As to say, I disagree in some certain things. Poison Maniac saying having licensing ruins car crashes and racing games. Yeah, I hate that. Burnout 3 is my
Yeah.
favorite racing game from my childhood. Not being able to damage cars suck. Yeah, I better be able to like damage that Porsche. I hope I can crash it to like, like yeah. That's always annoyed me in like every racing game actually. That I can't like Burnout 3 my car and like flip it, set it on fire
The
or
main
something.
one to blame is Ferrari. I
Mm,
think of all the brands, Ferrari is the problem child.
yeah,
I'm
that's
thinking Need
annoying.
for Speed Unbound. You can flip your cars.
You can damage some cars.
Well,
Yeah.
and all of them you can damage them to an extent. It's just about what they allow, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, Need for Speed was usually one where you could do the most. Like I remember playing, I remember it was Hot Pursuit or Need for Speed 2, or it was one of the old school ones back on like PS1, right? Me and my buddy would just like, he would drive to the other end of the road, like far away, and I would be at the other side, and we would just drive towards each other as fast as we could and try and create the most epic collision ever. And your cars would just flip and go crazy. And this was like licensed cars even back then. So
Mhm.
like Fuzzy's right. It depends on I think the
Yep.
manufacturer and stuff.
Yeah.
But Forza has damage. It has simulation damage and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
it could go further.
you could flip and stuff on that one too.
Like you could damage your car in Forza, but from what I've seen, I can't
You
see
can't
the
crumble it.
insides of the
Yeah.
engine and
Yeah, like
stuff like that.
Burnout was always the best for that, but that was like over the top also. Like
Yeah,
like
True.
it's like
You
going
are
around,
going like 500
like
miles per hour.
yeah, your car will go like at 20 miles down the road, just bouncing and exploding. It's cool.
Yeah.
It was fun.
You guys are making me want to play Burnout Revenge.
Yeah.
Definitely. Last comment we'll read and then we'll get to the last topic, Fuzz. Mr. Waffle says you'd be amazed at how many games get delisted due to music and ads like Burger King, etc., etc. Yeah, that's my point. Like, but I think if they make it easy to maybe remove, like if they have instead of Porsche, it's something else. That's my point. Just because, like, when you start putting things, when you start putting brands in your game, it's always some weird thing later on of what you can do or where you can put the game. Like Tony Hawk, I've been wanting Underground for so long to come to Series X and stuff like that. But they obviously can't because there's a lot of music in there. So if they make it like easy to replace, then cool. Then you could just be like, well, Porsche wants to charge us $2 million for the remaster. Like that. Well, I can't put it on PS6. Like, no, I think you put in stipulations to make it easy to replace.
Yeah.
So, anyways, just something to think about. Let's get into our third topic, Fuzz, which is essentially about the Game Awards, if you remember.
All right. So there's been an update, I guess, in the translation, but the one of the lead guys from Game Science made some comments after the Game Awards, or the Keeleys, as I like to call them. With them flying all the way out there, and the fact that I guess he wrote his acceptance speech 2 years in advance, but let's be honest, they created an awesome looking game. Yeah, it's hard as heck as far as just shy of like a true Souls like type of game, but they felt that they had something special, something that was worthy not only being nominated but possibly winning. But the story I picked up from the Gamer, the more I hear about it, the more Black Myth Wukong leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It's a good game that much is clear from the critical acclaim and 20 million copies sold, but over the past year, it has been held up by certain groups as an example of what we should consider the perfect video game to be. Like Stellar Blade before it, it allegedly free of modern ideology and only focused on the feeling of looking incredible. It also marks China's first time on the world stage of a AAA console experience, and from neutral perspectives surpassed any and all expectations that except for picking up the Game of the Year award. Taking place last week, the Game Awards saw Black Myth Wukong notably or nominated in several categories, including biggest honor of the evening. It went home with best action and player voice. The later accolade that is decided entirely by the community. Going into the ceremony, it was predicted that the millions of fans standing behind Wukong would help them rise or help it rise to the top, even against the consistent presence of high-over gotcha games. But when it came to all the categories that voted by a jury, the split of 90-10, it didn't stand a chance. Even in a year that pulses in comparison to 2024, or in comparison to 2024, 2020, or 2017, Game Science impressive action title was doomed doomed to be left behind. Over the weekend, the translated Weibo post by Game Science CEO Fang Ji heavily criticized the event, how games are selected for nominations, and saw him claim that he attended for nothing, even though he walked away with 2 awards. Taking his translation at face value, it gives off an impression of a sore loser who believes every other game that stood alongside Wukong is a pale imitator. Now, considering the controversial history of games development and how long it's been held up as a picture of anti-ideologic perfection by particular fringe groups, oh boy, I really didn't see this update coming with all these, looking, I guess, at the overall, mood of the game. Mm-hmm. Didn't realize that they would bash it as much, but you can't blame me for not being surprised. But digging a little bit deeper, it's possible that Wukong was done a little dirty here. After translating the Chinese into English, a lot of the intent can be lost. Many elements of the emotional nuance and introspection are cast aside in favor of plain language. So reading this Weibo post without proper context or cadence makes it appear like Fang Ji is an ignorant loser throwing Jeff Keighley under the bus.
Why they gotta say it like that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They really don't like this guy or Game Science in general.
Yeah. Wow.
But it may have been the true intent was to express a general, less bitter sense of disappointment. Twitter user Mizo provided a better idea of potential intent, and as a native speaker is more informative than Google doing all the legwork. Note, as somebody has done a lot of interviews with foreign developers, I know how easy it is for more emotionally charged questions and answers to be lost in translation. When Fang Ji talks about having written the speech 2 years ago, it wasn't done because of sheer arrogance, but pride for the community of Black Myth Wukong fostered in China, and a genuine belief that if capable of going all the way. When combined with a handful of crying emojis shortly after this part of the post, it's very much reads like a joke. A pipe dream of regret that if the stars aligned, it would be read on stage in front of the entire world. As people tend to do in modern landscape, some ran with this verse, least nuanced translation to label Game Science CEO as a crybaby to be debunked on or to be dunked on. Instead of reading further into things, but considering the reputation the developer has created for itself, it's difficult to see exactly where this line is. All right, translation issues aside, Black Myth Wukong was punching above its weight. Mm-hmm. Let me see if I can get to the actual translation because I want to see exact. No, they don't even do the actual translation.
It's like,
It mainly,
yeah.
well, I wanted to talk about this story only because I didn't take it as him complaining or being a crybaby to begin with. Although this particular news article or the Gamer definitely has their slight or their opinion to it, but I took it more so that anybody that was nominated along Astrobot. Now, give it, the credit's due. Astrobot scored like a 90 plus Metacritic, which, that's a feat in itself. But given, I would say, the judges for that metric, most of them having more of a PlayStation lean, which I know a lot of people will try and push back. Oh, they don't have this, quote unquote lean. You're just talking about Xbox tax, blah, blah, blah. We'll see how well Astrobot does outside of the Keeleys. My take is that it's probably not going to go much further as far as getting Game of the Year awards. Now, as far as possibly for categories like platformer, family friendly, I could see it taking some more trophies home. But in the grand scheme of things, I think a few games were kind of slighted or overlooked in the Game of the Year nomination, but they'll probably get their just desserts in like the BAFTAs or DICE and so forth. But when I saw the initial translation or the initial response from Game Science, I took it more so to look at it as it's like, hey, this is a small studio. Yes, they have some big financial backing from mainland, but to fly from China to LA kind of on a whim based on a nomination, typically you don't want to spend that kind of money unless you know you're going to come home with something in hand. But I took it more so as not that he went there for nothing, but it's kind of like, yeah, we flew all the way around and we got this great T-shirt, but we didn't get the big trophy kind of thing. And I took it more so as that. And I don't necessarily call that a sore loser, but I look at it as, a game that had so much hype around it. And sure, some people will say, oh, the performance on PS5 wasn't the greatest. A lot of people had varying degrees of playability on PC. It still had the world's attention enough to sell 20 million copies, which not many other of those nominations came remotely close. Now, Game of the Year doesn't necessarily mean it has to be the most popular game or the most played game, but it definitely should be in the consideration aspect where if critics are only going to focus on, like, let's say that indie film or that niche, foreign film with subtitles in black and white type of thing, and the general public could give two shits about it kind of thing, I think at some point we all need to take a step back and say, is it just focusing on the art or is it focusing on the game experience itself? If you look at previous, winners like It Takes Two, that was an experience in it of itself. I know a lot of people were rooting for Spider-Man, and
Yep.
Spider-Man 2 went home with no awards, but Astrobot, I felt definitely punched above what it probably should have. And like I said, we'll see how it performs at like BAFTA and DICE and stuff like that. But my main reason for bringing up this topic, I want to get your guys' take on, if you're an indie dev or a small dev new to the gaming scene outside of your main homeland, would this be a time to at least speak of your disappointment in not being able to achieve what you set out to accomplish, or would this be just stay silent and then head back home, tail between your legs kind of thing, and then just focus on the next game? I'll start off with you, Mav. If you had the opportunity, kind of like Game Science, to come out to LA, would you have taken it and just taken it on the chin going back home, or at least express your disappointment?
Uh, I mean, I think part of it, like we talked about it a little bit the other day, is could be like a little bit of a culture thing, right?
Mhm.
Um, with just the words that he chose to say. Um, I think it's kind of just as my personal view, right? That it is sort of loserish to come out there and say that you went there for nothing, even if it's like not perfectly translated. It's still the same essence of what he's trying to say, right?
Mm.
Where you come away with the Player's Voice Award, right, which was voted by the fans, and you also won some other awards as well, at least one other one that I can think of.
Like an action adventure or something
Even
like that.
being nominated for Game of the Year is a huge deal, right? It's argument that there could have been other games there over Black Myth Wukong or other games that were there as well. I do agree with the part where he says he doesn't understand what it takes to be a Game of the Year, right? I nobody does, right? Some years just like obvious. There was one game that stood out above the rest, you know.
Yeah.
But in a competitive years, it's like what makes this one Game of the Year over the other ones? Because like this one's more popular, this one scored higher, this one like was like should it like an expansion? Like I don't know, you know. So like it's hard to know how the journalists pick those things, but he was nominated for it, right? So that he was included, they were included in the discussion for Game of the Year. So just in that sense, you know, I would just say to the I don't remember the name, but if you didn't win Game of the Year and you're disappointed, make a better game next time. I'm just kidding. No, no, I'm just kidding. I would just say just say, you know, like, hey, it was great to be included with those other great games. We didn't come away with it this year, but I hope we can you know, maybe win one of these the next time on our next game. We're going to take everything we learned to make our next game even better. The popularity of our game is immense, and I think it stands for ourselves. Sorry to anybody that voted for or wanted us to win Game of the Year that we didn't achieve that. But you know, we're had a hugely successful launch of our first big title, and super proud of our team. And thank you to everybody that voted for us for the Player's Voice Award, because that's the one that really matters, because it's you, the fans, who get to pick and choose. I mean, like you say, the kind of typical stuff if you're asked a question about it like that. But, you know, just even kind of going out there and hinting that you went there for nothing is kind of a slap in the face of everybody else that's there. Everybody else that went to the Game Awards that cares about it, to say that you have to win the whole thing, or otherwise you shouldn't have gone. Like some Kanye stuff right there, man. I'm just like, next time he's gonna go up on stage and be like, no, Wukong
is the best game of all time.
Beyonce deserves it. She was great. No disrespect, you know. But this game was the best, you know. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, let them do their show, be humbled and happy to be, you know, mentioned among the rest, and being there is a big thing. I think, but being there also like helps to promote your game even more to the fans, showing you appreciate them by making a presence there. Like if you watch any award show, right, or even back in the day, you watch the Grammys, like which ones didn't take the time to show up? You know what I mean? They're not performing this week, and maybe they're on tour or whatever. But like, you see the ones that took the time to show up and what they say when they accept an award. I want to thank the fans. I want to thank this. I want to thank that. Right? Like, people notice that kind of stuff. And this is the big award show. This is like the Oscars. This is like the Grammys of video games. When it comes to viewer presence of watching, right? So I just think you should be there for them, for the people that bought your game, for the people that played your game, for the people that voted for you, the people that put you in that conversation, right? That's enough, right? That's enough reason to be there.
Yeah.
Awesome. But what would you do as far as if you were in Feng Ji's shoes?
I mean, Wukong is interesting because it was the lowest rated game out of the other Game of the Year
Yeah,
contenders.
well, I said make a better game.
Yeah, make it better game.
I just kidding.
So it was the lowest rated one, and I honestly thought something like Dragon's Dogma 2 would take that spot. That
Yeah.
made more sense to be up there. Um, I mean, so I kind of want to address it's probably like a cultural thing. In terms of like how they're responding, like I want to be first, and I get that mentality. I'm like that a lot of times. If I release like a product, and then I'm like, wow, I'm way better than these people. You know, I get that competitive mentality for sure, and I have problems with the Game Awards, and for many reasons. So if he's like, I don't know what it takes to be there, yeah, I don't think anyone who's not the gaming media and doesn't just play around with PlayStation understands what the heck their decision making is. But um so Poison mentioned something. He said, I said it was context missing and translation issue. Pretty sure that XPS dev Pierce put out a video bashing the devs. So she did put out a video bashing the devs, but I kind of want to read why. Okay. And this is where it gets into like a cultural thing, possibly, right? So when they were recruiting for developers, they had like news posts and stuff, where they were like trying to get people, trying to get developers to get within Black Myth Wukong, to be in the development team, stuff like that. I'm gonna read some of this. Some of this is R rated, so cover your ears. Um, this was a post. This is from one of the developers. His name is Yokar. I believe that's how you say it. He says, "I want to expand my circle and hire more people. Get licked until I can't get an erection." Right. Another post. It just goes. It gets worse. I I don't even know if I can say this. Um, I can't even say that one. Um, the snake spirit is different from what I imagined, but if I cover the bottom half of my hand, I want to make something to jerk off to. A ton of just crazy comments, right? Where yes, it's translated, yes, it's probably different culture and stuff like that, but they said some pretty problematic things. You guys can look it up, all the different ones where he's basically saying like, I only make games to jerk off to, and stuff like that. That you can look up these comments. I mean, how many times can you translate that to mean not what it, it doesn't look good.
He was probably upset about some of the characters in the games that the Game Awards reveals.
Yeah.
One of the
yeah.
It's leading the rebellion against the shaped head of Intergalactic and Ciri's older self.
Yeah, it's just
wow.
It's there. They talk here. I'll read one more just so you guys can see how ridiculous.
No, I don't think we
need. Last one. The G spots of male and female games are fundamentally different. This is not determined by the gaming environment, but by the biological conditions. When you were holding a heavy machine gun and shooting at governments in your dreams, what the ladies are dreaming about are bags would make their friends jealous. It's just weird stuff. They talk about how to recruit people by making games they could jerk off to and stuff like that. These are all quotes you guys could look up. So I have problems with a lot of the statements they say, but again, I feel like a lot of that is cultural things, stuff I don't necessarily agree with, but they definitely have some sexist and problematic comments in my culture, my point of view. So with that being said, they have a history of just kind of being, a little uh for going with their words, with how they present themselves. This development studio. Um, so with that on the line, taking that into context of what he was saying here with the Game Awards, like, yes, I could put it in the light where it's a competitive spirit and things like that. I can definitely see that. I get they wanted to be first and stuff like that, but considering it was the lowest rated game of the year, I felt like they were just lucky to even be there in the first place. With all the competition that was this year, there was a ton of amazing games that came out this year. Um, I do think that the fact that I think Poison mentioned it, like 90% of the media gets to vote on what games even becomes to be nominated, and then you look at the jury, and a lot of them are just on Sony. It really does show in the categories or games that are even put up. Like the fact that Cyberpunk won for ongoing, and then you have Helldivers 2 winning for ongoing and stuff like that. Just problematic stuff. Like what the heck? It shows that there's some bias stuff going on there. So I understand the statement he said like that. But yeah, he definitely. If you guys want to look at it, I said the PG stuff. Believe it or not, that was the most PG ones I could find. But they definitely have said some things in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do have a history of it. But this one, I think it just chalks it up. I do genuinely think this one's a little bit of translation thing, a little bit of cultural thing mixed in there as well, and them just being really proud of their game. Them just being like, we're the best and you guys suck, Kanye sort of situation. So yeah, honestly, that's what I think. We can read some of the comments and we can head out there. And you guys have any additional points?
Just one.
Yeah.
With all that being said, and considering that this was a like Sony leaning show to some extent, and whatever backdoor, underhanded, behind the table deal they made with Sony, that probably makes them reconsider that with their next title. If dealing a deal with Sony kind of didn't get them to the goal line like they expected, maybe they just go out on their own, because obviously, I mean, maybe being on Sony's platform got them on the stage, but or at least nominated. But if it doesn't get you the trophy, then what'd you do it for, kind of thing?
They just did it for money, and
yeah.
And the thing is, like, that's still going to be coming to Xbox too. But like that one was just like weird. That's just kind of shows I don't know if they were in need of money or they're like, okay, yeah, let's just do this thing because they're offering it, and like we're gonna sell more on PlayStation anyway. So like, they could have just done that, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they'll probably learn from that. I think it would have helped them if they were everywhere, a little bit, because maybe you have some media that does prefer Xbox or likes Xbox more. Media is always going to have their biases play into a factor there. So if you're not as interested in it, maybe you don't give it as a vote.
Yep. I mean, yeah. Again, it's happening with several studios.
Any of those Xbox journalists or sites that are included there probably aren't picking Black Myth Wukong.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Like, if you're thinking about the games again, like some of the games that are ongoing games that are that kind of deserve to be there, like yeah, your Forzas, your Sea of Thieves, those are like Xbox titles. Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76 just reached millions and millions of players. Say what you want about some of those games, you don't like it or whatever. It has a fan base, it has a ton of engagement. And it makes sense for some of those games to be in those categories. But if you were just in the media ecosystem, you would just think that Sony games are the only games that exist. It's like such a weird echo
I mean,
Bummer.
Astrobot was also on PlayStation only, right? And it would carried it. So they had some big competition even with the own exclusive platform, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah. So, it is what it is. But thanks, Fuzzy, for leading that topic. I think a lot of people just don't know about some of those comments he made.
Yeah.
It's on IGN. I was surprised it was actually on IGN. You can read the list of comments when they're trying to recruit other devs. They said a lot of things. I said the most PG things I could find. Believe it or not. So they have a history of some kind of weird comments here and there. You could translate those how you want. I mean, I don't know how else you're gonna translate like, oh, I want games that people could jerk off to. I don't know how you could put that in a. I don't know. It's just weird. But let's get to some of these comments and get on out of here. I got Soul says that was a long boss fight. I think he's talking about the gameplay I have. I think this might be Fuzzy's footage. If not, I'm not sure. I know he gave me some footage for certain games, but yeah, this boss fight looks awesome. Thatch says his translator was the happiest person there that Wukong didn't win. Yeah. The Sousa says Phil Spencer will probably rest the stage next year if Fable doesn't win. Yeah, I could picture Phil being like, all right, that's enough. Next year. And being like, I mean, if GTA 6 comes out next year, that's winning. Probably guaranteed. GTA 6 is winning next year. But I could see Phil Spencer be like, all right, Kanye situation, this is the best game of all time. But we'll see. Alvin says, whoa, 6 hours ago, Wario posted a 5K bust of the Wukong protagonist, too rich for me. Wukong's style is so cool. Like, I would actually get out, not for 5K, but I would love a huge statue like the main characters. $4 shipping though. Oh, discount. 5K object. Yeah, you guys are killing it. In the comments. So appreciate everybody for coming on by. Let's get us on out of here. Let me. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna close out. Thanks so much to everybody for checking us out. We're doing this not on a Sunday, as you've seen. This is gonna get busy during the holidays. Sorry. Trying to do better. Life happens. All the things. But yeah, Fuzzy, Mav, thanks you guys for joining me on a Tuesday. And Fuzzy and Mav, we'll go to Mav first. Please tell us like where people can find you, brother, and what plans you have for future shows and what you got going on, man.
Yeah, it'll be. I don't know 100% the holiday schedule yet going forward, but as far as this week, we're on track for all of our normal shows. So PM of the PM on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time on Fun Speculation, and then Friday night 9 p.m. Eastern time for Fun Speculation. And yeah, maybe we'll see what kind of news or whatever happens. Maybe see a Mavcast pop up or a game stream, but check that out on the same channel. Thanks everybody for being here and watching Pixelated Echoes with 3-Bit and Fuzzy, the dynamic duo. Fun.
Yep. Yeah. Heck yeah. And Fuzzy, man, close us out, man. What you got going on? Future shows, all the good things.
Oh, this was awesome. Always love it when we have Mav as a guest. Love his takes. Just love hanging out with you guys. This was great. Sorry we missed the Sunday, but always great that we have people come in to hang out with us on Tuesday. Greatly appreciate you guys taking the time. Don't forget, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Greatly appreciate it. And for those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere. Also Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, everywhere but Facebook. You can find me, and look forward to seeing us both or seeing all of us on Xbox Ultimate on Friday. So hope to see you guys there.
Yep. Everyone, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified. Right now we're at 420, so I kind of want to keep it for a little bit smoke weed every day. But let's get it to 421, I guess, whoever that is.
Maybe I'll. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, Sub.
You're like, I'm so glad. Keep it at 420. Be sure to follow us on other platforms. Starting to put the episodes on Spotify. Follow us on Blue Sky for updates, future updates. If you guys agreed with us or not, let us know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe and all that. And we'll see you guys on the next episode of Pixelated Echoes. There is a holiday schedule, so things are happening. But I'll see. I will notify you guys. I will just be inconsistent just for a little bit longer, and then we'll get back to our Sunday. But I appreciate everybody for coming on by. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye, y'all.
Later, everybody.
Later.